So students, we are going to discuss today the chapter Federalism, chapter 2 of Political Science, grade 10th, that is Federalism. So, in this chapter, we will define federalism. We will see the difference between the federal government and the unitary government, and then we will see the features of the federalism. We will discuss the features of the federalism. Then, after that, we will discuss what makes India a federal country and how federalism is practiced in India, and then finally, decentralization in India. So, these topics in detail we will cover, and now we will start our topic, that is federalism. So, in our earlier chapter, that is chapter 1 of political science power sharing, we have seen the case of Belgium and the case of Sri Lanka. So, in the case of Belgium, we have seen the policy of accommodation was adopted, the mature approach was shown by the Belgian leaders, and in the case of Sri Lanka, we have seen they have adopted the policy of majoritarianism. So we have seen the conflict started in the Sri Lanka, and then finally the conflict took the larger scale and it resulted in the civil war. So we have seen in the case of Belgium that Belgium moved from unitary system of government to the federal system. Earlier, the unitary form of government was there. All the powers were controlled by the central government. Then, after amendments in the Belgian constitution in 1993, we have seen the more powers were given to the state government. So, earlier also the regional government was there in the Belgium and power was given also to the regional government, but still that power can be withdrawn anytime. But now through constitutional validities, the power was given to the state government. So it means the Belgium or the Belgian model, it moved from unitary government to the federal system. But in the case of Sri Lanka, we have seen that it continues to be a unitary government where all the power is in the hands of the central government. But the Tamil leaders, they wanted to establish a federal system of government in Sri Lanka. So now let's define federalism and see the difference between federal government and the unitary government. So now federalism is a system of government. Federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority. So the power is divided between the central authority and various constituent units of the country. So it is a system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority, that is the central government or the union government, and various constituent units of the country, means various state governments. So it is a system in which the system of government in which power is divided between the central government and the state government. So that is federalism. Now let's see federal government versus unitary government. So let's see the differentiation between the two systems. So in the federal government, the power is divided between the central authority, that is the central government or the union government, and various constituent units, that is the state government. So in federation, two levels of government is there. One is the central government, which is the government for the entire country and which is responsible for the few subjects of national importance. And on the other hand, the other level is of the state government, the state level, which is responsible for day-to-day administration of the state. And both of these levels of the government, they enjoy power independent of each other, that is the state government and the central government. Then after that, in the case of unitary government, there is only single government and power is concentrated in the hand of central government only, and the other units, the state governments might be there, but they are subordinate to the central government only, and powers are given to the state government by the central government only. And this is different from the federal government. In the federal government, the state governments, they have their power which is given to them by the constitution. So in federal system, the central government and the state government, they derive their authority from the constitution. But in the case of the unitary system, in the case of unitary government, the state governments or the subordinate governments or the provincial governments, they drive their authority as delegated by the central government. So after this now, in the federal government, the second point, in the federal government, there is division of subjects. Okay, the division of subject is there. Like in the case of federal system, we have union list, we have state list, we have concurrent list, and the residuary list. So the division of subject is there. The areas are divided according to which the different levels, they will make the laws accordingly. And here the no division is there, all the power is in the hand of central government only. So strict control is there, this is centralized system, all the power is in the hand of central government. Here the local government enjoys more freedom and power, that is decentralization. So here in the federal structure, in the federal government, decentralization uh, is introduced here. It was introduced here in our case also. And here as such no decentralized is there, decentralization is there, all the power is centralized in the hand of the union government or the central government. Now the classic examples of the federal government, our case, that is India, USA and Australia, and there the China, Japan, Italy and France. So now let's discuss the features of federalism. So the first feature of federalism, two or more levels of government. So any country will be a federal country only when the two or more levels of government is there in the country. Like the central government is there, then after that the state government is there, and if the more level is there, that is the local government is there. So a country will be a federal country only when two or more levels of government is there, that is the union government, state government and the local government. So this is the first feature of a federal country, or the first feature of a federalism. Then the next feature is different tiers of government, different levels of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction. What is the meaning of jurisdiction? Jurisdiction means the area over which someone has a legal authority. So that is the meaning of jurisdiction. Now the different tiers of government, the different levels of government govern the same set of citizens. So in a country, the citizen might be a resident of a state of Punjab or Rajasthan or Haryana, and that person is a citizen of country also. So that person will come under the purview of state government also, and that person will come under the purview of central government also. So the different tiers of government, the different levels of government, whether the central government or the state government, they govern the same set of citizens. But each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters related to legislation, taxation, and administration. So different areas are there. So the citizens will be same, but the central government and the state government will control these citizens according to their purview, according to their jurisdiction. So for example, in if we want, like in the central government, the union government has control over the foreign affairs, currency related issues. So this union government has control on this. So if any person they want to have their passport, so it comes under the purview of the central government, because foreign affairs comes under the purview of the central government. So any other issue related to the state government, so that will come under the purview of state government. Like the driving license, we want to avail the driving license, so that will come under the purview of the state government. Then so the same citizens will be there, the same citizens will be there under the union government also and the state government also, and the same that citizens, they have to follow the rules and regulations of the state government also and the central government also. Then the next is the jurisdiction of the respective levels of government are specified in the constitution. So whatever their jurisdiction is there, so area over which one has a legal authority, so that is clearly specified in the constitution. So the powers are bifurcated in the constitution. There is the union list, then we have a state list, and then we have a concurrent list and the residuary list. So the union government will make the laws which is there in the union list. So all the important issues related to communication, banking, and then the defense, all this come under the union list. And in the state list, agriculture and all this comes under the state list, and police comes under the state list, and under the concurrent list, the education is there, on which both central and the state government, they can make the laws. So the jurisdiction of the respective level, whether the central government is there or the state government is there, clearly demarcated and specified in the constitution, so that there should not be any conflict between the different levels. Now the next, the fundamental provisions of the constitution. So whatever powers are demarcated, whatever provisions are there in the constitution, cannot be unilaterally, cannot be one-sided. Unilaterally means one-sided. Cannot be changed by one level of government. And such change, if any change we want in the provisions of the constitution, require consent of both the levels of the government. So this is one of the very important feature of the federalism, that the fundamental provisions of the constitutions cannot be changed by the one level of the government. It requires the consent of both the levels of the government in order to go for a change. Like if for example, like the education, it comes under the concurrent list, the state government can also frame the laws accordingly, and the central government and the state government, they both can frame the laws accordingly on the education. But now if the central government, they say that all the powers we are only having, and state government, you cannot make the laws on these issues, then conflict will arise. Okay, so our the constitution makers, they were having this vision of the future, that this thing might also happen. The central government, they can change the constitutional provisions, or they will take control of all the power in their hand. So keeping this in mind, so the fundamental provisions of the constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of the government, that is the central government itself cannot change the fundamental provisions of the constitution. Whatever provisions are there, the legislation and other work will be done according to those provisions only. Central government alone cannot change, and central government cannot undermine the powers of the state government also, according to the constitution. Then after this, the courts have a power to interpret the constitution. So courts here means the judiciary. So who will explain the constitutional provisions, what is written in the legal language, what is there in the constitution? Who will explain those things? The judiciary, the legal person, they know what are the constitutional provision, what are the meaning of different areas which are bifurcated in the union list, state list, concurrent list, and the powers of different levels of the government. What are the powers of different levels of the government? Who will clearly define this? Courts only. So in the case of any conflict, any dispute, suppose rises between the state government, two state governments, between the central government and the state government, so who will solve all these kind of disputes? The courts. Okay, they act as a neutral person, they are the umpire, and they will decide if any of the dispute arises because of the working day-to-day working, any of the dispute arises, then courts are there to settle those disputes. So the next feature of federalism, the sources of revenue for each level of government, that is the central government and the state government, they are clearly specified to ensure financial autonomy of the state government and the central government, so that the state government and the central government, they will work only when the revenue is there, when the income is there in their hands, then only they will work. So it is ensured, everything is specified, so that the central government, the state government, they are independent in their financial matters. So the independence is required in the financial matter for the smooth functioning of the state government and the central government. So they are independent in the financial matters. Everything is specified from which source the revenue generation will be for the state government, and from which source the revenue generation will be there for the central government. So taxes are there, custom duties are there, excise duties are there, sales are there. So these are the sources of revenue generation for the government. Then the another feature is the federal system thus has a dual objective. So we have a dual objective to be satisfied if we are going for the federalism, or we have adopted a federal form of government. So first of all, to safeguard and promote the unity of the country. So here we have to promote, we have to safeguard the unity, the integration of our country. Plus, besides this, we have to accommodate our regional diversity also. If we see our country, different states are there. Punjab, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, they have their different culture. So we have diversity, but still we are united. So we are unity in diversity. How? Because we have given powers to the states. So different states, they have their powers. So we have given powers to the states. So that's why they are unified under one umbrella of the nation. So they all states are unified under one umbrella, that is the Indian nation. So the federal system has a dual objective, that they have to safeguard and promote unity also, as well as they have to accommodate the regional diversity.